Butterflies, welcome to the comic verse. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today I'll be doing a comic analysis on the most recent New Mutants. The first thing I want to say is that this ties into a much larger picture in the entire X-Men and Krakoa storyline, just like all the other series. So if you're not caught up with that, to summarize, the mutants created their own realm, their own home called Krakoa, and with the combination of the powers of 5 mutants, they're able to resurrect and live eternally. One of those side effects is this automatic healing of their past traumas. And I have a video about the importance of transmuting our own energy and why Wolverine is so against that concept, because he's someone who is already immortal, right? And he knows the damage that it can truly cause. So check out my Wolverine analysis for details on that and other videos on Krakoa's reaction as an island and the issues that come along with the resurrections. So I'll link those down below if you're interested in in-depth analysis on those topics. So you may have noticed a few major themes and issues throughout the series, no matter how different the issues are. One of them is the process of the creation of religion. We see some people fear mutants, some people look down on them, some worship them, and there are cults formed around them as well, right? So right off the bat, we see Wolfsbane thinking about her experience with Storm, and it immediately reminded me of church as intended, I'm sure. Because even with the wording when she says being reborn and released of past sins, like the wording is very reflective of church things. But it's not a topic that I want to dive into today, but I just wanted to throw that out there. So Karma comes in speaking some facts, okay? And she says, I'm sure people would love to just take this gift for what it is and move on, but you've been through some things, okay? And that has a way of sticking around, which leads to the questions about self, faith, and fate that can be hard to ignore. And Wolfsbane is just like, meh, I'm fine. For real, I'm good, right? And funny enough, that's exactly the point. It is our traumatic moments that tend to lead us to the larger questions of life, the parts of us that doesn't seem realistic to explore, the parts that feel difficult to confront, the parts that we just let slide because we simply don't have the answers. It's undefined and undecided. And we all have different questions at the core, but essentially it's always the same, if that makes sense. So it's those dark moments that end up forcing us to turn inward and finally face whatever those questions are for us. So Wolfsbane is just like, yeah, I'm good. I genuinely feel fine, so everything is all good, which means I don't need to think about anything. Side note, I have to say that sometimes we don't, okay? I don't want to make it seem like we have to dive deep and cut open every single wound and explore it. Time does heal wounds, the act of crying helps our physical body release, and the growth in our consciousness helps us release as well. So there are many other ways that, we can release pain and transmute it. That's why it's important to be self-aware and be real with ourselves, because it's not always obvious which past situations are currently influencing us because it's internalized in a subconscious way. And with the addition of our defense mechanism and our ego, it can be very hard to see the core of the issue that's being reflected to us, right? So it's really an internal battle with ourselves to break down those barriers so that we can rise through even better on the other side. But back to my point, we experience dark moments in order to learn and grow from them. But when we don't feel the pain, then we simply won't care enough to face those questions. If everything is smooth sailing, then we wouldn't be able to tap into more strength because we wouldn't need to. So experiencing darkness that forces us to pull on even more of our own strength and our own power to get through and face whatever it is that you're going through, it can truly be a gateway to discovering so much more of ourselves and more of our potential, if that's what we want. It's all up to us what we explore, what we choose to see, because life is all about choices. This isn't exclusive to anyone because there is no person who doesn't experience dark times in their life. So a more realistic example is someone who acts cold, detached, have extreme commitment or trust issues. There are so many ways that we avoid facing our traumas and our feelings, and we continue to move forward as if we aren't. And a lot of the times we aren't even aware that we're doing it just because we've become so accustomed to pushing forward and prioritizing other things. Then it gets put on the back burner until it's internalized, right? And then there's the whole aspect of the power of creation through darkness as well. And I spoke about this in detail in the Powers of X and House of X analysis, so I'll link that down below as well. Next, I just want to repeat this truth bomb before I move on. So they're talking about how they built a new community and how they have schools now. And they acknowledge that that's where they have failed, because human ideologies and institutions were never built for something better. Because human institutions were never built for something better. So let's talk about Mondo, because I love him. I feel like people don't give him enough credit because it just sounds like, all right, so this guy just talks to trees and the dirt, whatever, right? But no, he said he's sensitive in all the ways that matter, so you better recognize. He's shown specifically connected to Earth, but this also means he can tap into the subtle energies, that which is not seen. Mondo says the dirt in Krakoa makes him itch. Even though Krakoa is a replica of Earth, seemingly better even, it's still a realm that's created within Earth. So these realms of Krakoa are like a virus to Earth's body. And because Mondo is sensitive to the energy, he feels the fake dirt of the island. At the end of the day, it's man-made and it's not self-sustaining like Earth, right? It requires, I think it was 2 bodies a year, so the creation is obviously flawed. But I wonder if that's why he's not able to tap into the energy of Krakoa in the same way as Earth, because it's basically fake Earth. Earth is the ultimate embodiment of the quote, often imitated, never duplicated, okay? In this series anyways. I think they got Earth fucked up because they're basically experimenting on her body and think it's all going to be smooth sailing and it's going to go downhill very fast for them. Fast forward to issue 9, Cypher finds a way to make Krakoa speak through Mondo, and he literally gets nauseous from that. They're trying very hard to manipulate Earth, from the creation of Krakoa to forcing the island to speak, which also ties in with what I spoke about in the beginning. The further we stray from our traumas, the further we stray from the core questions and the necessity to connect to self. It's through the connection of self that people are able to then tap into other energies, including the elements like Earth. Mondo is just an expression of something that we're all capable of, which is why I love him so much. You know, it's his ability to be sensitive that provides him this power to begin with. So there's this segregation between mutants versus humans, and it's a clear reflection of what's happening with Black Lives Matter, which seems like the biggest issue on the surface level, but as they said in Wolverine, nothing is as it appears to be on the surface. And that's what I love in this series. We see all the individual battles, but when we scale out, we can also see the bigger picture, which if you kept up with the House and Powers of X, in the future, both mutants and humans lose. Because 12 times out of 10, Earth wins, okay? So they're so worried about them versus us that they're not noticing what's happening beyond that. That's not to say that it doesn't matter, because the micro is a reflection of the macro, so it all matters, which is why self-healing can be impactful to the entire collective. It doesn't matter how much you're going to reach out and help the community if you're internally destructive, especially if you're going to be creating children, because now you have unhealed traumas that are going to get passed down to them. And so now you're creating generations of traumatized children while helping your community when you're not even helping your own self and your own family. So going back to the line about human institutions never being built for something better, as they say, history repeats itself. One thing that was different about the schools here was that it said everyone is a teacher and a student. So the mutants are trying their best to work with what they've been dealt with. But at the end of the day, separation has never been the answer. Of course, it's understandable because the humans are complete assholes. But the ultimate battle to overcome are between all these dualities and thinking that they can't coexist. They created their own realm and the humans still won't let them live. And that's not to say that their bullshit should be tolerated. The point is separation isn't the answer, especially in this case, because, you know, they need to find a way to unite, look past the trolls, and build a society that can have both of them coexisting. So the last thing I want to talk about is what happened in issue 6 when Beak's parents traumatically die and the kids, Maxime and Manon, decide to replace that memory, and so now Beak thinks that his parents died peacefully 10 years ago. This was just another way to reflect the same question in the resurrection process. So it's kind of hypocritical that Armor's going off on the kids about wiping their traumas and stripping them of their right to grieve, because that's exactly what this rebirth process is doing. She then says, I understand that your heart was in the right place and what's done is done, but these things have a habit of coming back to us, just as Karma stated to Wolfsbane about our feelings in the very beginning. So if we pay attention, these situations are all reflecting each other in some way. Alright, so I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you, Butterfliessss, so much for spending your time with me today. I hope you find the strength to face whatever it is that has been holding you back so that you can transcend these battles, these dualities, and face your ultimate potential. Stay flying free, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.